Greetings, doctors of optometry. My name is Dr. Solomon Gould, and I am an optometrist out of the Twin Cities of Minnesota. I have 2 private practices and 2 stellar teams, and on this side, I love nothing more than helping other doctors be successful both clinically and, of course, as practice owners. I want to first especially thank my good friend, Dr. Alan Glazier, for the invitation to be a part of the great Fluorescene platform. I will be presenting on a variety of both clinical and practice management subject matters. And for today's first clip, I want to spoil you all with some great knowledge on private practice key performance indicators. Now, key performance indicators is simply a snapshot of how your particular practice performs in comparison to the national average. And I have information and data and metrics from what's called the Mean MBA database, which is essentially metrics and data from all private practices and actually corporate practices as well across the country. So as doctors of optometry, we generate our revenue from 2 key primary areas, from the chair and from the optical. The 2 key performance indicators I would like to share with you doctors today are number 1, collections per exam. That's more generated from the chair. And of course, the capture rate, which is, of course, a metric in the optical. Now, of course, when it comes to key performance indicators, it's the apples to oranges phenomenon. No 2 practices are the same. But with this information and with some trends I will show you, you'll be able to get at least a baseline idea as to where you are as a practice. And I'll share with you some clinical and practice management pearls to get you to your fullest potential. So starting off with the collections per exam, first and foremost, we don't have data yet for the year of 2020. So I will be sharing with you information and data from the years 2017, 2018, and 2019. Now, let's start with this collections per exam key performance indicator. So collections per exam is essentially what revenue are you generating per patient encounter. The trend in what we're seeing is that as doctors of optometry over the past 3 years, we have done a better job at this key performance indicator. We're generating more revenue, in other words, with each patient encounter. The metric collections per exam in the year 2017 was roughly around $359 on average. That jumped to, in 2018, around $366.80, and then in 2019 up to $370. Now, I also, in addition to sharing with you this trend, want to highlight something that's very important to know. First and foremost, as I mentioned, no 2 practices are the same. With that said, there is a disparity across the country between the performance of practices, and to no surprise, but in the upper 99th percentile of practices, this particular key performance indicator in the year 2017 was around $626. That jumped to around $658 in the year 2018, and then slight decrease down into 2019 at around $651. So they're generating that amount per exam, and that's the upper 99th percentile of practices. Comparing that to the 50th percentile of practices, where these metrics were in the year 2017, $348. That jumped to around $354 in 2018, and in 2019, that increased to around $356. So the trend was that it was also going upwards for the 50th percentile, but recall from that 99th percentile, the figures that I mentioned beforehand, the figures are actually double. So the upper 99th percentile of practices are performing double with this metric compared to the 50th percentile. So my big question to you doctors is why? Now, as a professional consultant, I know why. I know that what they're doing the right things at every step of the process. And of course, over the next several months, I will be helping you doctors how to navigate that and how to optimize your collections per exam key performance indicator. We're now on to the second key performance indicator, this one generated from the optical, and that is the capture rate. So we have seen national average here that capture rate key performance indicator has decreased. In 2017, 45% of practices were able to capture the patient coming out of the chair in the optical. That decreased to around 44% in the year 2019. It hovered in between there over the year of 2018. So we know that online sales are increasing, and that is affecting the capture rate in the brick and mortar modality. Just, a sheer figure here for you. Online eyeglass sales in 2018 were only roughly around 4.7%. But that has increased, and in 2019, that was up over 10%. So yes, that is affecting our capture rate in the brick and mortar setting. So now, once again, let's compare that upper 99th percentile of practices to the 50th percentile of practices. In the year 2017, the capture rate in the upper 99th percentile was at 88%. That then decreased down to 85% in the year 2018, and then 82% in the year 2019. Let's now compare that to the 50th percentile. Well, in the 50th percentile of practices, that figure remained consistently from 2017 to 2019 at around 43%. Remember, comparison here, that figure is also around half the amount, or half the capture rate, in other words, of that upper 99th percentile of practices. So what are they doing differently? What are they doing better in order to have that high of a capture rate? Again, over the next several months, I will teach you exactly how to do that. At my practices, I have roughly, it hovers between 89 and 92% capture rate. And it is not me, it is a team effort that, again, I will bestow upon you great doctors of optometry. So I won't spoil you with too much information yet, but I will give you just a high-level clinical pearl and practice management pearl. When it comes to optimizing your chair-driven revenue, two big pieces of advice. Number one is to capitalize on the trends. And number two, consider a specialty practice or a holistic practice. Now, let's first talk about the whole capitalizing on the trends. There has been a significant shift in the consumer to a holistic or a preventative, prophylactic way of caring for themselves. So in the field of optometry, we're seeing great technologies such as CogniView, PharmaNex, Diopsis, AdaptX, MPod, Neuralens, all these ways to really truly care for the patient more holistically. And as doctors of optometry, being a formative front-line primary care practitioner, we have the ability to incorporate this technology into our clinical repertoire. The second thing, as I mentioned, consideration of a holistic or a specialty practice. There's a lot of potential in combination with technology for dry eye, myopia management, specialty contact lens, or just overall holistic high-level care. Now, give you two little pearls for today's segment on the optical-driven revenue component. Number one, avoid common mistakes made. I see a lot of doctors of optometry, whether they're just freshly opening a practice or this is an existing practice and they're revising their optical, the two most common mistakes I see made are, number one, more equals better. In other words, if I don't have every frame line, every lens option out there, I'm going to lose a customer. The second common mistake I see made is simply keeping up with the Joneses. If Dr. Alan Glazier has Maui Jim, I have to have Maui Jim. Now, what those two common mistakes will do or yield is what I like to call wallflowers. In other words, this is going to eat up your cash flow and it's simply going to collect dust. So my advice is to watch your key demographic, monitor your frame board management, see what burns and turns, and of course rely upon your reps for that. But have a finger on the pulse. Second piece of advice is to learn your generations. This is going to be a big segment of mine that I cannot wait to delve into. Learning your generations, or working smart, not hard, is one of the most easy ways to be successful. And I mean that quite simply because a lot of times we burn ourselves out just simply trying to appease our customers and patients. And there are ways that you can be successful by simply knowing how to work with that personality type or that generation. That's it for me today, wonderful doctors of optometry. Again, a big thank you to my good friend, Dr. Alan Glazier, for the Fluorescene platform invitation. I cannot wait to come back with more on my segment. My particular passion, again, helping doctors be more successful in clinical care and practice management. And I can't wait to come back with you guys with my next segment here on FYI with Dr. G.